to me like a recipe for war and incredibly dangerous. I am not supportive of... I'm not supporting...
You got more support than they did.
I'm not supporting of Russian military action.
Yeah.
And I do think there has to be a peace process, and there has to be a process of demilitarization of the Ukraine and sticking to the original non-nuclear agreement. But I'd also say this: the hypocrisy of the West is unbelievable on this. Where was the legality in the war in Iraq? Where was the legality of so many of the other interventions that have been made elsewhere? And if one reads very carefully what all the Ukrainian forces are saying, yes, there is a very nasty far-right force in Ukraine at the present time, which is part of the government. There is also a more liberal grouping in the Ukraine. There is also a very large Russian grouping in the Ukraine who obviously have some loyalties towards Russia. Does Ukraine break up? That's a matter for the Ukrainian people. But the idea that we should move the whole thing in rhetoric towards some kind of military war against Russia seems to me an absolute disaster. But I think the wider issue is that the EU has got very close to NATO. NATO has been pushing very hard to expand eastwards. Inevitably, Russia is going to get very nervous if NATO sets up bases all around its borders. That, in turn, encourages Russian militarism. Can't we go back to the point where Ukraine was a nuclear-free country that was not going to be a member of any alliance, either with Russia or with NATO, and start to demilitarize and de-escalate the situation and allow a proper debate, much longer than a week, for people to decide their own future in the Ukraine. And it seems to me there's a terrible danger of a rush to a combination of an economic and a military war, and goodness knows what the consequence of that will be. But I'm quite alarmed by the way in which the NATO General Secretary seems to be ramping up the ante all the time. It's not his job to go around promoting wars. He's meant to be answerable to a number of different governments. He appears to be behaving as though he's some free agent that can say and do what he likes and develop this very, very dangerous scenario. Ukraine has been the war ground of Europe for 2 centuries. Millions have died in Ukraine from famine, from war, from occupation and from disasters. Let's not visit that upon them again. Let's try and de-escalate, demilitarize and bring about some kind of dialogue and peace process which will guarantee a peaceful future for those people and for Europe.
And military intervention would have to be a last resort. But my question to Jeremy Corbyn would be this: what do you do? Try to negotiate, by all means, that's what we're trying to do. But what do you do if Russia does not pull its troops back to their bases?
I'm not sure that the Russian people, having lost so many in Afghanistan in the past, want to see Russian lives lost in the Ukraine any more than people in this country want to see us going into some ludicrous, futile war, which will have to end up with a political settlement. All wars end with a political settlement. Let's start from the point of a political settlement, not start from the point of building up armed forces, moving fighter jets to Poland, mobilising the fleet and all these kind of things. Negotiate through. And secondly, last point, the West has no moral authority whatsoever to lecture on this. After drone strikes, after Iraq, after so many other internal coups and conflicts around the world, surely hand the thing back to the UN to try to bring about some kind of peace process and de-escalate the rhetoric which is in danger of plunging us into a